Hello everybody, it is Tom and welcome to another video.
I've been going to some dark places. I hate it when my mind races. I've got so many.
So hello, we are back with another episode of Agatha All Along. You find me in my Halloween loose Billy cosplay with my chipping black nails and kind of Billy-esque costume and a little bit of eyeliner just to keep things, anyway. But yes, so I had initially intended just to do a reaction on episode 6 because it was fantastic. In fact, after I watched it, I was like, there's no way any other episode of this show can live up to this one. And then episode 7 happened, so we're back. The writing of this episode is so brilliant, and, obviously acting, music, everything else, but we gotta talk about it. Like, I have a lot of things to say. Again, so as before, we're gonna watch through the episode, we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna dissect it and analyze it and talk about what it all could mean and all that stuff. So a quick warning, if you have not watched one of my reactions before, this is not like a straight watch through. I don't do anything straight. This is not a straight watch through where like I'm going like ooh, ah, oh, ah. It's more like we watch a little bit, we stop, we talk about it. We watch a little bit, we stop, we talk about it. So like this is very much, we're watching the whole episode together, but we're also pausing a lot to discuss. I do sometimes still get comments of people who don't like that reaction style, and that's totally fine. Just, I'm not sure if you know this, but if you don't like my video, you don't have to watch it. Like, I'm not sure if you were under the impression that you had to keep watching if you started, but you can stop. Like, it's fine. You can stop. Be along your merry way. There are so many great reactors out there who are doing more traditional style, but this is my style, so that's what we're doing. Okay, so with that said, let's get into episode 7 of Agatha All Along, which is called Death's Hand in Mine. Fade in to Lilia wearing some fantastic sparkly eyeshadow. And she is dressed as Glinda the Good Witch and looks kind of scared as she is falling, which fair. And just beautiful shot here with the dress and her falling into with just blackness in the background. But yeah, great opening to an episode. Okay, so we're on the Witch's Road and we have Agatha and Billy walking along. I would have to go back and watch to be sure, but I believe that up until this point, anytime they were walking down the road, Agatha was always in front, Billy was behind. But now they're walking side by side, which kind of shows how their relationship has come to a point where they're more equals, and also evidenced by the fact that Billy is no longer taking Agatha's shit.
I'll get a nosebleed trying that hard to read my mind.
As we see later, Billy is able to read Lilia's mind, which suggests that he can read a witch's mind. But for some reason, Agatha, he's not able to read her mind. This does sync up with WandaVision because there is that scene in the one episode when Billy and Tommy are over at Agatha's house and Billy's like, I like you, you're quiet on the inside. It does fit with canon that Billy is not able to read Agatha's mind, though whether that's some innate ability of her own or like if it is a thing with witches and the only reason he's able to read Lilia's mind later is that she's having loud thoughts, as he says, who knows.
You just can ask me your questions aloud.
Where's Rio?
Not that question.
Not that question. Yeah, that would be kind of complicated to answer.
Any other queries for your old babysitter? It's the whole reason you bought a ticket to ride, isn't it?
It's so interesting seeing Agatha interact with Billy here because it's clear that she wants him to like her. Like she's trying to interact with him. She's trying to draw him out. It's giving very much like parent and sullen teenager.
I'll get what I want at the end of the road. And she's not my mom. I have a mom.
It should come as no surprise that a lot of Wanda fans were pretty upset about this line. But it makes a lot of sense. Like if you think about what Billy knows and what he's been through. So Billy existed as Billy Maximoff for a very short period of time, and he does not have any memory of that time. So he has no memory of Wanda. All he knows about Wanda is what he's heard from others For example, Ralph Boner. For the past 3 years, Rebecca Kaplan has been caring for him, loving him, being just the best mom. So I can definitely understand why he would say this. So yeah, go easy on the kid. And the sound that she makes, she's like, oh.
Is Wanda Maximoff really dead?
Yes.
So he says, is Wanda Maximoff really dead? She immediately says yes.
No.
And then is like, no.
Maybe.
This feels very like Marvel being like, wouldn't you like to know?
Did you see a body?
Yes, I did.
Did anybody else?
It's hard to say.
He asks her if she saw a body. And the truth is she did. Like, we saw the body that she saw. And this might beg the question of like, well, obviously that was all in her mind. So why is she considering that proof of Wanda being dead? But I think it's important to remember that like, up until Wanda died or whatever happened to Wanda, Agatha was trapped in Wanda's spell, just acting like a normal nosy neighbor. But then when Wanda died or whatever, there started to be little holes in the spell where reality was able to come in. And it's like Agatha, deep within her, sensed that Wanda had died. She knew that something was affecting the spell. So like the things we see in episode 1 are reality and what Agatha's witch mind has sensed creeping in and like trying to jar her out of it, trying to tell her something. So the fact that out of nowhere, right when Wanda dies, Agatha in her delusion becomes a detective and sees Wanda's body and all that stuff, like that does suggest that there's something real behind that. We don't know what actually is going on. We don't know if Wanda is actually dead. We just know that she is removed enough from this plane of existence that it fractured the spell and it reached Agatha in some way.
Hey, you want straight answers? Ask a straight lady.
I love that. I love, like, obviously I love all of the queer jokes in this show, but like, you want straight answers, ask a straight lady is so good. If I had to guess, I would assume that Agatha is bisexual or pansexual based on the fact that, like, if she was the real Jolene, apparently she stole Dolly Parton's man away, though she could have stolen him without actually wanting to be with him. She might have done it just to be a dick. But yeah, regardless, it's so nice. It's so nice to hear her openly say, but it was pretty funny. I was watching someone react to it who is like clearly doesn't know very much about the queer community. And when Agatha said that, they were like, ah ha ha ha, because she's so crooked in her morals. And I'm like, yeah, that's the joke. That's what that was about.
That's different.
Oh, this is so cool. I love that they're using practical effects for pretty much everything in this show. It just is so atmospheric and so cool. Like, I'm not a big fan of CGI in general. Sometimes it looks really awesome, but there's just something so great about practical effects. And we also have kind of a yellow haze over everything, and yellow is Lilia's color, so that kind of makes sense for Lilia's trial.
The road is a fickle mistress.
More vague insight. Thank you.
He's so done with her shit. And she looks so offended. Like, it's quite a jump from kind of the sweet fanboy that he was before to this like cold and sullen teenager. And I think his real personality is somewhere in between. Like, this is an extreme circumstance here, but it's really great to see the dynamic turned on its head, where before it was always like, you know, teen kind of chasing after Agatha. And now Agatha is finding herself in the position of wanting to get back in his good graces. Like, I do genuinely think she likes him. She cares about him. And it's driving her crazy that he's being so cold to her.
We're alive. Success.
Now I wonder if you've ever been on the road at all.
This is a fair question. And, you know, I think a lot of us have been wondering the same thing. I do think it's possible that Agatha has been on the road before, but it does seem like I'm tending to assume that Agatha has not been on the road for the simple reason that you need a coven to access the road. And her coven died back when she was, you know, quite young, relatively speaking, for a witch, and before she had really come into her power. The implication is that she never had a coven after that, because when Teen in episode 2 asks her like, oh, are you taking me to see your coven? She's like, no, those harpies are dust. So that suggests, like, at least that brings to my mind her original coven, and then the feeling of like she's been lone wolfing it the whole time. That does tend to imply that maybe she did not actually go on the road before, but we'll see. Maybe she has. I do wonder how she managed to get a hold of the Darkhold, because I was assuming before that was what she got at the end of the Witch's Road, but who knows? So yeah, in conclusion, I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But it's clear that it really hurts Agatha that he says this to her. Like, she looks so upset, and then kind of shakes herself out of it a little bit and follows after him. And this is the first time that we have Billy leading the way to the trial, and Agatha following him. So quite a reversal. But then as they get to the door, they're even again. They're equals again. Yes! The outfits here are so good. Joe looks freaking amazing as Maleficent. I love this outfit that they got for him with like the blue, and obviously Agatha looks great as the Wicked Witch. This is so good. And I love that they walk in and their first instinct is to go, wow, and pose.
Classic.
She's based on me, you know.
Prove it.
She's based on me, you know, and he's like, prove it.
You seem pleased with your look.
Well, if the cheekbones fit.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Do you think this is important?
Do you think this is important? Yeah, and one interesting thing that I've noticed over the course of the trials is that Billy is the one who initiates pretty much every single trial. He is the one who technically initiated this whole thing. Like, he's the one who started them on the road, you know, by going to Agatha and being like, take me to the Witch's Road. So it makes sense that he's the one who finds the invitation at the first trial. He's the one who plays the record during Alice's trial. He's the one who grabs the Ouija board in Agatha's trial, and now he's the one who grabs the tarot card. So he starts every single trial, which is interesting.
Your path winds out of time. It's tarot. I know this, kind of.
And there goes the hourglass, which is very cool. Like, I love the use of the hourglass here, especially since in The Wizard of Oz, the hourglass was used to show how much longer Dorothy had to live. Like, the Wicked Witch throws her in a room and is like, and flips the hourglass and is like, that's how long you have to be alive, or something like that. So, what a bitch.
I'll read for you.
No time like the present.
Agatha's pose here.
The horse-drawn carriage.
The chariot?
Yeah.
It's literally written on the card.
You know what? Give him a break, Agatha. It's been a long day. That does make me wonder, like, does time pass differently on the Witch's Road? Like, how long have they been here? Because they haven't eaten or drunk anything aside from poisoned wine. So I would definitely bring snacks to the road.
Obviously you're leaving somewhere behind. You have these sphinxes with you, and they represent your mysteriousness.
You have a real gift.
Okay, this card hasn't really come up much for me, so.
I love Billy and Agatha so much. I love their dynamic, especially now when, like, it used to be just Agatha being mean and Billy taking it, but now the fact that he's giving it back to her is just chef's kiss. One free sword with every tarot card placed. I love this slow look up at the ceiling. Yeah, that's not ideal.
I'll try another one. Seven of Swords.
At least on theme.
I know this one. It's about deception and betrayal.
Check, check.
But it's reversed. That means the opposite. You're being truthful.
That's so interesting. I do think this is an accurate reading, this one here. Like, Billy doesn't know the chariot, but I think the cards that he's choosing are correct for Agatha. I don't know what the chariot is. I'll have to check that out. But, like, well, let's find out right now. The Chariot is a card about overcoming conflicts and moving forward in a positive direction. One needs to keep going on and through sheer hard work and commitment will be victorious. That's very interesting. So it represents determination, success, and control. When it appears upright, it signifies that you're on the right path and should persevere in your endeavors. Okay, so that fits quite well. It doesn't mention her mysteriousness, but I'm sure that's just, But yeah, I do think that, like, the chariot is correct. Her being truthful is correct. Like, she has been being truthful, I think, about what she said about not being able to control her powers, and just in general with him right now. She's being her real self.
Well, that can't be right.
But he's like, that can't be right.
Tarot is a con like any other.
It's not true.
Eeny, meeny, miny.
I will say, like, another point in the column of Agatha has never been on the road is the fact that she rarely does anything helpful during these trials and often does something that is like actively harming them. So he's like, what is your problem? And she's just laughing. Good thing he has good reflexes. She does look a little like, ooh.
Your turn is going great.
This is a numbers game. We keep at it until we get the right cards in the right spots or the ceiling runs out of swords.
I'm not sure how much math you did back in Salem, but that will take forever.
I'm not sure how much math you did back in Salem.
Oh, we still have some time.
Yeah, about that.
I wish Lilia was here.
This is a good cut. I wish Lilia was here. And then we pop over to Lilia.
I was falling. Yeah, we both were.
It's interesting that, like, only the segment that we just saw is from another perspective. That was from Agatha and Billy's perspective. But now we're back to Lilia, and we spend the whole rest of the episode in Lilia's perspective, seeing things as she sees them, which is really cool.
You very clearly said we had to follow this gross tunnel and look for shelving.
I don't know what that means.
The son of the Scarlet Witch kicked us off the road.
What?
What?
Teen is the son of the Scarlet Witch? How do you know? I told you.
Oh, so another thing I wanted to say is that the fact that going into the mud drops you down into a tunnel underneath the road, and there's even the potential for escape, potentially, through the subway, which reference to what poor Sharon was saying about the city's failed public transportation system. But it's really interesting to think, first of all, if Sharon had actually fallen through the mud, she might have escaped, or she might have just wandered the tunnels forever. But I want to believe that on some subconscious level, Billy knew that throwing the wishes into the mud would not kill them, because that is one point that I find it very hard to reconcile with Billy as a person. Like, I know he was very angry. He was dealing with the trauma of Alice's death. He was lashing out. But, like, the fact that he was so upset about Agatha killing Alice, on purpose or not, and then proceeded to attempt to kill 3 of the coven really doesn't work for me. So I want to believe that subconsciously he knew it would not kill them. And it was just his way of being like, get out of here, I need to be on my own, and wanting to punish them, but not murder them, I hope. And it would have to be subconscious, because he does seem to believe that he has killed them after the fact. So maybe it's not correct, but it's what I want to believe, because I love Billy.
You and I had a very grounding heart-to-heart conversation.
Us? Really?
Okay, rude. 5 minutes ago, Lilia would never say something like that.
I love seeing Jen and Lilia bonding in this episode.
You're being extra wispy.
Wispy?
Kooky.
Which is it? Am I wispy or am I kooky?
Somehow they managed to get the tone and the inflection and the feeling spot on for these lines that were obviously filmed in a totally different scene. So, like, Jen says her line, and the way that Lilia responds matches that perfectly. If they were in the same scene, it would sound perfectly natural together. So it's really cool that they were able to keep that level of consistency where it doesn't sound unnatural for this to be the response.
Bit of both, if I'm honest.
Alice, don't try to save Agatha!
Oh, Alice. I miss you, Alice. Yeah, Alice, don't try to save Agatha.
Yes, I love this plan.
Yeah, so when I first watched this, I thought we were doing a flashback for the sake of the audience, to be like, oh, remember when she said this? But that's not what's going on. Like, we're literally going with Lilia through time. We're following Lilia. Like, this is her consciousness. She's with Jen, and then she's with Alice, and then she's with Agatha. Like, this is where she is going. And that's so interesting, and such a cool way to structure an episode.
What do you see?
Maestra?
And then she's back with Maestra, with her teacher.
Ah, capisco. You are visiting.
I love this teacher lady, like her accent, the way she talks, how she's so chill. Like, she's great.
We're having a lesson?
You're first.
I was bad at tea leaves.
This is a fiction you told yourself and tell yourself still.
That's interesting. The idea that, like, even back then, Lilia was kind of down on herself and her talent and not really believing the power that she really had.
Because it's true.
Ah, the easy road.
The easy road, denial?
What do you see, Lilia?
This is a really cool transition from the tea leaves into the tunnel.
You're confused again. It's okay.
I'm not confused.
Yeah, and of course Lilia's whole struggle very much brings to mind older people's struggles with Alzheimer's, dementia. So I've had 2 family members suffer from that when they got older, and it's very reminiscent of this, where like you're living in a different time, carrying out scenes with people who are no longer with you. Seeing it from this point of view, from Lilia's point of view played out, it's very beautiful and very sad.
I haven't heard them since the subway station. I'm talking about the Salem 7.
I know that.
It's great to, like, it's so brilliant that we are also confused. We're like, the subway station, what are you talking about? We really get to experience this from Lilia's point of view.
You look at me and you see some doddering old broad.
Well, tell me what more I should see when I look at you.
I love seeing Jen's journey in this episode. Like, throughout the whole series up till now, Jen has been kind of like, you know, she's not the nicest. She's kind of self-involved, very superficial, in it for herself, makes nasty comments to people, like telling Lilia she needs a chemical peel. How dare you? And so the way that she delivers this line at first sounds very much like that. Like, this is the only way that she knows how to say it.
No. I mean it. Tell me.
But then she does clarify, like, no, she really means it. Like, tell me, open up to me. And it's great to see this first step to deepening their relationship and really opening up to each other.
The flow of time is an illusion, Jen. When I was a child, I experienced my life out of sequence. I would get these flashes, these gaps.
This should be obvious, but Patti LuPone is so amazing. Her acting is so brilliant in this episode. She's killing it.
Now it's happening again, and it's getting worse.
Oh, and the way she gets so emotional as she's saying it's getting worse. Like, that's, again, like bringing my mind back to Alzheimer's and dementia and just the fear when you realize that that's happening to you and it's getting worse and what that means, and just, oh, it's so heartbreaking.
That sounds terrifying.
And Jen responds very, very sympathetically and empathetically, like, that sounds terrifying.
Why is it getting worse?
Maybe because I'm close to the end.
Of the road?
Yeah, and of course Lilia means the end of her life, though Jen mistakenly thinks she means the end of the road.
Like your full powers returning?
I'm not so sure I want it.
Agatha, what are you doing?
And again, it's like, what is happening? Where are we? What's going on? Why is Agatha here? I love how they shot this episode. It's so brilliant. And like, as Lilia says, like the gaps filling in, the pieces falling into place as we go through.
Did you not see imminent impalement in your future? No.
I love that line. Did you not see imminent impalement in your future? I also love that after accidentally killing one of the coven a few episodes ago, Agatha literally throws herself into the path of a falling sword to save one of the members of the coven in this episode. Now, of course, Agatha knows that without Lilia, they will fail this trial and all die anyway. So there's definitely a certain element of self-preservation in there. But the fact that like it's such a split-second decision, it suggests that it's being done like genuinely she wants to save Lilia, which is really nice to see from Agatha.
Are you okay?
Whoa! Ow! I thought we were cool!
I thought we were cool.
We are not cool, teenager.
Damn, using his full name.
I love that, the full name.
I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have lashed out at you like that. You didn't deserve to... I wasn't hiding my power from you. I didn't know that I could... I'm not lying to you. It was a surprise to me, too. If I'd have known, I would have... Yes, I would have used it to save Alice.
And again, testament to Patti LuPone's acting that, like, we can't hear her lines, but we can see the different play of emotions on her face through this one-sided conversation as Billy reads her mind.
You're reading my mind.
Only because it's so loud. No offense.
No offense.
I remember you now. Your bar mitzvah.
That's so interesting because she remembers him now because, of course, the sigil is broken, but he does not remember that bar mitzvah because that was William prior to Billy's consciousness entering the picture. So
Lilia, take it easy.
Jen is so wonderful in this episode. Like, she's such a caretaker for Lilia. It's so good to see her growth.
Jen, aren't you furious?
I mean, always, but collectively, we moved on.
Always.
At your prompting, Dory.
Not Dory.
Back off, Agatha. She's having a day.
And standing up for Lilia here.
The flow of time is an illusion, right? So trust me when I say you're not mad at the kid anymore.
And I love how Jen puts that she explains it using Lilia's own explanation. You know, the flow of time is an illusion. You're not mad at Billy anymore.
What are you wearing?
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
What am I wearing? This is so demeaning.
Focus up, Calderu. We can be culturally offended later.
I would say it's probably that, like, the fact that this is Lilia's trial and she hates the stereotypes of witches so much is specifically why the road has given them these costumes. And it's also funny that the most vain of them all is the one who's the witch in Snow White, you know, who of course was obsessed with her own appearance and like being the most beautiful in all the land, but in this guise is not conventionally attractive. Oh, and he wraps his hand over hers, both to help and also as an apology.
I'm glad you're here now.
Because now you need me.
I'm sure that's not the only part of it. Like, he's genuinely glad he didn't kill you and glad to see you because you're wonderful, Lilia. We love you.
Ain't that just like a witch?
Are you the one who cast the sigil on me?
I saw what was going to happen to you that night. I saw who you were and who you would become.
Agatha, like, very subtly, like, this is relevant to my interests.
I knew you'd need time.
Yeah, so this makes sense, the fact that, like, Lilia saw all of this happening, and it does lend credence to the idea that, like, Lilia's jumping through time is not the same thing as her divination ability. Like, she can divine things that are not within her own realm of experience. Like, it's not all only things that she has personally seen during her trips through time. Like, she can get a glimpse of something that's happening to someone else. So she gets a glimpse of the car accident and what happens to William and how Billy comes into it and all that, and then just thinks that he needs time. So she decides to hide him from all witches until he has time to come to terms with who he is, his power, all of that. So it's a simpler explanation than I was thinking. I thought it had something to do with Agatha specifically, but it makes sense. Like, I think this is fine. It doesn't need to be overly complicated.
Maybe no cards is as bad as the wrong ones.
What did I do wrong?
I hated this the first time!
Lilia's being weird again!
It's nice sometimes when she gets to go back and see, like, people or things that are long gone, but having to relive some of the trials, not so fun.
Looks like we came to the right place.
And then her screaming the first time they meet her.
Stop.
And she's just desperately trying to get the jumping through time to stop.
Tell me about your life now.
So I love that Lily is like, stop. And her teacher is just like, tell me about your life now. Like, no reaction.
Have you a coven? Which requires a coven.
It's better to be a hermit, to be a fraud.
I think this really makes sense in terms of what Lilia has been through, where, like, her first trauma was the fact that she was able to see what was going to happen to her original coven, but not save them. And then throughout the years afterward, clearly she was trying to warn people of the tragedy that she saw coming. The tragedies happened anyway, and they got mad at her and, like, called her a witch and things like that and ran her out of town. I can imagine her becoming really disillusioned. It's also interesting that the implication here is that both Lilia and Agatha had the same experience of, like, had an original coven. It ended badly with all of their deaths through different means, and then never had a coven again until now.
So much fear, even now.
And also it seems clear that, like, Lilia has never put much stock into her own ability. Like, it seems like she's thought all along that it's kind of a wasted power or doesn't really do anything useful. And so she's been more comfortable just playing at being a psychic, just being a fraud instead of being someone who's genuinely able to see the future.
Please just tell me how to control what's happening.
Your task is not to control, but to see.
With Lilia, she wants to control her jumping through time. If Lilia could control it, I'm sure she would want to just stay present in the present and just go through things linearly. But by jumping from time to time, this is giving her what she needs to do what she needs to do and finally save her coven now.
I was hoping I would get to skip this part entirely.
Oh, well, you did miss out on the champagne brunch back there.
Really?
No.
No.
You get any new intel on your mental walkabout?
Jen is just taking this all in stride now. Oh, and she finds Teen's book. This does make sense because when they were on their broomsticks, if that's when he lost it, they were off the road, which means the book fell off the road, which means it probably sank into the mud and found itself in this tunnel. So this does make sense in terms of this being where it ends up.
You said this used to happen to you when you were younger. Why'd it stop?
Because I wanted it to. I ignored it.
Yeah, so it sounds like Lilia has spent the majority of her life pushing away her talent, pushing it down, ignoring it until it goes away. But now finally it's reached the point where like she can't ignore it anymore. Like it's making itself be heard, which is good in that it helps her to do what she needs to do here. But I'm sure it's very upsetting.
I put it away.
Why?
Because all I saw was death.
And I do wonder if is this implying that Lilia only has premonitions about death and tragedy? Or does she just mean that the majority of the things that she saw were related to death and tragedy? I don't know. And we hear Billy and Agatha arguing in the distance.
I wish Lilia was here.
And they just fall out. Like, Billy says he wishes Lilia was here, and she just falls onto the floor in front of them.
You're alive.
He's really happy at first, and then he's like, oh shit.
Relax, baby. We're cool.
Relax, baby. We're cool.
Hey, things are looking up.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Sword ceiling.
My task is to see.
And it's so great that, like, every single place that she jumps is helpful to her in figuring out what to do. And of course, like, getting the advice from her teacher tells her that her task is to see and not to control.
Who massacred this spread?
She did.
Okay, children.
Who's the querent?
You mean the subject? I guess I'm the querent.
Again, I love all the queer jokes. And the fact that Agatha is like, ha 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 ha, is so good. I can imagine someone outside of the queer community being like, why are there so many jokes about being queer? Like, that's what we do. Like, you cannot be a queer person and find yourself in a closet without making a closet joke. You cannot have the opportunity for a queer pun and not take it. It just doesn't happen. So it's very realistic.
Now, please ask your question.
How are we gonna get out of here?
Teen must ask.
Ask her how we're getting out of here.
Ask her how we're getting out of here.
Am I William or am I Billy?
Such a good question. And the ceiling is like, well, I need to hear this.
See? Lilia knows what she's doing.
Supportive Jen. We love to see it.
This is the safe passage spread. The first card is you, the traveler. Of course you will face obstacles preceding a potential windfall. You must overcome all to reach your destination.
I love this whole explanation. First of all, it's great seeing Lilia so confident and just like snapping off this knowledge to them.
What, no snide remarks?
That sounded good to me.
Good.
And then the way that they're like, oh yeah. Yeah, if Lilia had not shown up, they would have been fucked. It's also just generally interesting to learn more about tarot because I don't know that much about it.
Now, Teen, I want you to hold your question in your mind.
She's still calling him Teen.
You are the magician. You have enormous potential and the ability to turn all of your goals into reality.
Very, very spot on there. Now, does this answer the am I William or am I Billy question? I'm not sure. Let's see. What does the magician mean? The magician points to the talents, capabilities, and resources at the querent's disposal to succeed. The message is to tap into one's full potential rather than holding back, especially when there's a need to transform something. The card symbolizes the meetings of the physical and spiritual worlds and the conduit converting spiritual energy into real-world action. I'm not sure if this means like the magician means like, oh, you're Billy who has the magic ability, or the meeting of physical and spiritual if it means like you're a combination. Personally, I think that while the soul of William has left, it's still the brain and body of William with Billy's consciousness in it. And Billy has lived the last 3 years as William. So I think in that sense, he is both Billy and William, but we'll see what the show says, if the show says anything about it. Of course, like, her readings for Billy are correct, but it's not the right person, so the swords still fall.
I don't mean to question your methods.
Then don't.
Again, great to see Lilia so confident.
Choose your next card. What's missing? The sun. Good fortune. Joy. Reunion.
Reunion, very interesting. But remember, this is the what's missing card, so we already know that what he's missing is he wants to reunite with his brother or his family in general.
Reunion.
And I've never seen Agatha so on edge. Like, she gasps audibly every time a sword falls.
Pick again. The path behind.
And we don't get to see what card he chose for the path behind, which is sad because I would have liked to see it. Yeah, this is the moment where Agatha sees the sword falling, no hesitation, tackles Lilia out of her chair, putting herself in the way of the falling sword, which, again, amazing growth for Agatha, especially since it was a split-second decision that she didn't even think about.
Get off me!
So then we have the wonderful, get off me! And so Lilia, from being in the tarot trial, finds herself back at their very first meeting, like the first time the coven was together. And that's why she says,
You know, we really hated each other from the beginning, but now
I love you guys.
oh, she loves them.
What am I missing?
Esatto. What are you missing?
Oh, and when she does the tarot reading for herself, what she was missing was community, her coven.
Why are you on this journey?
to get my power back.
Is it gone? Where did it go?
I love this. Is it gone? Where did it go? That's true too. Like, Lilia even admitted, like, she suppressed her own power. So her power's been there the whole time. She's just been suppressing it.
I'm a forgotten woman.
And remember yourself.
Remember yourself. This is so great. Everything this woman says is so freaking wise. Old Italian Yoda.
It's worth remembering. You died, but I saw it coming. Our entire coven wiped out by a fever. I saw it, told you, but it didn't change anything.
That must have been so traumatizing as a very young witch to, lose her entire coven to something that she saw coming but could not prevent.
That comes for us all.
And if this is their first lesson, then presumably this is the first time that Maestra is learning about the fact that Lilia has foreseen this. But she doesn't even blink. Like, she's just like, yeah, death comes for us all.
You say it like it's a comfort.
It is what we all have in common.
When will it come for me?
And it's really interesting that this line, when will it come for me, also sounds a little bit like, when will it comfort me, which is such a cool play on words and what they were just talking about. Oh, and she says, when will it come for me? And the Maestra just looks at her.
I was falling. I will fall.
This is so cool, like how we cycle behind Maestra's head to go from like something that happened before and then shifts to future tense, something that will happen to her, and realizing that she was seeing her own death.
Yes. What will you do with your remaining time?
Jen, wake up. The son of the Scarlet Witch telepathically kicked us off the road. We sank beneath the surface, and now we're here.
And then we have like super confident, fast talking Lilia. Just the gaps are filling in. Everything is starting to make sense. Knows what she's doing, knows exactly what needs to be done.
I have a lot of questions.
I have a lot of questions.
Agatha is in the trial with Billy.
Who's Billy?
The son of the Scarlet Witch. Try to keep up.
Keep up, Jen.
We've got to find the bookshelf. I can see all the pieces falling into place. The gaps are filling in.
Yeah, and that's wonderful that the gaps are filling in, but also very sad because if the gaps are filling in, that means she's almost at the end.
I'm telling you now because in a few minutes I'm not going to remember any of this.
But I love this version of Lilia. Like, things are finally making sense for her. And we, the audience, are also at the point where things are making sense to us, so we get to experience it with her.
Is that the way out? Off the Witch's Road?
I'm not sure why Jen thinks that this is the way out, but I believe her.
The 7.
Here come some creepy black dresses. I want like the outtake where they accidentally walk into a wall and then all fall down like dominoes. Like, is this necessary, ladies?
Where are they going? We don't need to worry about them right now.
Yeah, and Lilia knows they don't need to worry about them because she's seen up until the point where they get into the trial and they have not seen the Salem 7, so.
I'm going to take this path toward my trial. I hope you'll join me.
Why?
Because you are my sister in the craft.
I love the deepening of their friendship here, coming to see each other as true sisters in the craft, true coven members, and just really caring about each other. And again, it's wonderful to see Jen's growth coming from someone who's so self-involved and like putting herself above everyone else to being like, no, you know what? I'm going to go with you into this dangerous situation.
I know what I did wrong. My path winds out of time.
It almost seems like she is controlling it in this case at this moment, because just the way that she turns and says, I know what I did wrong, and is immediately exactly where she needs to be. Though in a way, like all the places have been exactly where she needs to be, but she's really riding the flow of it this time.
I am the traveler. I am
the Queen of Cups.
This is hands down the coolest sequence of the entire show so far. The way that they did this, the music, and like, I love that the illustration on the card looks exactly like her.
Now you see.
Now you see. And Maestra is so proud.
No sword!
Why doesn't the ceiling stop?
what's missing. Three of Pentacles.
I had assumed going into this that all the time she said the tarot cards were things that related to that moment in time, like that it was just her seeing the future or like making some comment about what was going on. And it was that, but it was also her foreseeing every single card she would need for this trial. Like, it's just, this is so well done. And the fact that the Three of Pentacles is on the same paper as the Coven list. Agatha, Lilia, Jennifer, Alice, and then the Black Heart for Billy. And if you look at the people on the card, like you can see everyone here, and even Rio is here wearing a green cape. I really hope that they sell this tarot deck because I want this tarot deck.
Community, singular voices waiting to harmonize. I needed you. My coven.
That's so touching and heartbreaking, like, especially considering what happened to her original coven. The fact that she's like, I needed you, my coven, with such love in her voice.
Path behind.
And Lily is like not even paying attention to the swords because she knows it's gonna go exactly as it needs to. She's just riding the flow of time here.
The Knight of Wands.
And the fact that Alice is the path behind is so sad.
Full of fire, fights bravely. The path ahead, High Priestess.
The path ahead is Jen. That's so cool. I love that with the painting behind her and the pose and everything.
Immense spiritual power, unable or unwilling to use it.
This reminded me of something that I've thought about Jen for a while. So in episode 4, when they're sitting around the campfire talking about different things, and Jen says that, she was invited to the whatever organization for obstetrics and it was a trap. And like the guy who we saw in her hallucination bound her. And she says, I don't know how he did it without magic. And then this here, where Lilia describes the High Priestess as immense spiritual power, unable or unwilling to use it, it really makes me think that Jen unknowingly bound herself. Like, I think that her power is there. Her power has always been there. But the trauma of what that man did to her has caused her to bind herself. She has to deal with that trauma before she can move forward, before she can get her powers back. That's my theory in any case, based on what she said back in that episode and based on the phrasing that they had here describing her card.
Obstacles. Three of Swords. Heartbreak, sorrow, grief.
The fact that Agatha's card represents heartbreak, sorrow, and grief is so fascinating. And it's clear that like heartbreak, sorrow, and grief are the things that are informing her character the most. And like the reason why she is the way she is, starting with her first betrayal by her mother and her own coven for things that she couldn't help. Like, I don't think, like, her mom is awful, obviously, with like oh, you were born evil, I should have killed you, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, losing her son, which I don't think she knew that the price for the Darkhold would be her own son based on her reactions to the hallucinations in episode 3. But this really makes sense for Agatha.
The Windfall.
The fact that Billy is the windfall. So windfall being like a piece of unexpected good fortune. The fact that having Billy with them, having access to his power is such a good thing for them. It's also really interesting that on this picture of the tower, you can see some winged creatures flying away and you can see 2 people outside of the tower falling. Now, is this talking about the fact that we only see 5 of the Salem 7 impaled on the swords, and, 2 of the 3 who can transform into flying creatures potentially escaped? Maybe.
Tower reversed.
The music in this section is so good. And so, I started getting emotional during this section, really, because of this music and everything that's happening. It's just so well structured.
It means miraculous transformation. And finally, the destination.
And here comes the dark, cloaked figure.
Who is that?
Don't you recognize me, Lilia?
Yeah, and the fact that Lilia has, as she said, been seeing death throughout all of her predictions, and then Rio's like, hey girl. We even saw death in her hallucinations, so she has seen death before, but this is death coming for her specifically this time, and, as someone she knows. And then, yeah, all the clues, Rio crawling out of the grave, and the fact that, when she crawls out of the grave, she says, I heard you were having a party, which is how Sharon described the situation, it's a party, so she heard that from Sharon.
You get your power, and I get my bodies.
Wanting bodies. And of course, the Ouija board saying, death is here with us, and Rio just cackling about that.
In the end, all roads lead to me.
I also love Rio's music, I can't get quite that low, but the no, 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 no. Very cool reveal here. Terrifying.
Rio is.
And then the reveal of the card. Lilia! And Agatha's just like Lilia. Lilia was not even conscious of the swords. And there's the finished spread. All the coven members. And of course, it's interesting that Rio is not technically part of the coven. She wasn't on the list. She doesn't have a trial. She's a tourist, as Agatha says. But she is still part of the group to a certain degree. But she's also the destination. I mean, for everyone in one way of thinking, but for Lilia specifically. And the door opens with a big green R for Rio.
Lilia, you saved us.
And Jen's so proud. This is also a very cool echoing back to when Jen heals Billy after he's been stabbed with the glass, and she's like, look what you did. This is kind of the same thing in reverse, where Lilia has used her powers to save someone's life, in this case, all of their lives. And Jen is reflecting that back, look, you did it, Lilia. We love to see the supportive sisters in the craft.
Rio, she's death.
She's what?
The original Green Witch.
Is it true?
What can I say? I like the bad boys.
When death is Aubrey Plaza, you can't really blame her.
The 7. They're here.
Everyone in the Iron Maiden. When she calls you a coward, hit the deck. What? Go!
I guess what? Obviously, we know from the conversation with her teacher back in Sicily that Lilia is approaching death, that the fall that she saw was her falling to her death, and the fact that she's wearing the same outfit that she is now means it's coming this episode. But this moment where she's telling something to each person, having her last words with each member of the coven, is so heartbreaking.
How?
Magic.
It's also very much like Dorothy going from, one member of the party to the next before she leaves. I almost said Wonderland. Before she leaves Oz altogether. I'll miss you most of all, Jen.
I'm not going before you.
The growth. Every single trial, Jen has been shoving people out of the way to get out first. And, and obviously in episode 5, she's literally willing to leave Agatha behind to exit the trial. But the fact that now she has grown so much and bonded so much with Lilia that she's I'm not leaving until you leave. You are going ahead of me so I can make sure that you're safe is so satisfying.
You're the path ahead, Jennifer.
Lilia.
I loved being a witch.
I loved past tense. And the thing that gave her so much anguish over the years and that she pushed away for so long and now is something that she can say she loved. No! And Jen's genuine heartbreak, having after a whole lifetime of uncertainty and not being confident in herself or her abilities, having this moment when everything comes together. She knows exactly what to do, exactly where she's headed. It's such a satisfying arc for Lilia. Here come the 7 creeping in through the cracks.
You may not know this about the road, but when you successfully complete a trial,
Like I just did?
Like I just did. Yeah, you were amazing, Lilia.
It's not a good idea to overstay your welcome.
I love how she's taking her time and waiting until they're all there. Like, she wants to make sure they are all present and accounted for so she can take out as many of them as possible before she does anything. She's waiting until the last possible second. What a badass.
Usually, something terrible happens. Disaster. Destruction.
I love that she's reading off the traits of the tower upright as they get closer to her.
Sudden upheaval. Like the tower. Upright.
Boom. And you see the magic go, the yellow magic go down her arm and into the card. This is so cool. Like, I love the way that they did this, and like everything flipping and all the cards flying. So like she can't flip them back even if she wanted to. Oh, and we see the Queen of Cups go flying. It's also really interesting to see the hourglass flip over, which is what you do when you want to restart the time. And since at the end of this episode, we see Lilia back in her childhood form, it's like we flip the hourglass over. So it's just very cool, like very evocative and very meaningful and just really freaking cool looking. Although in this case, like the sand in the hourglass stays in the same position, even as the room flips over because gravity is pulling it down. So never mind, but it's still cool. 4, 5. And then we see like a feather falling. So it is implied that 2 of the 7 did escape, but Lilia took out 5 of them. Like, damn. And then there's this moment when she's holding on and she looks down and then her grip slips. And we see that fall from the beginning. And in the beginning, because she didn't know what was happening, she looked scared. She was like, why am I falling? This is terrifying. But here she looks at peace. She looks content with her life and what she's done and what she's accomplished and where her life ends. Now, I'm glad that we do not have to see her hit the spikes, because that would have been very upsetting. But also it implies, because we've seen this whole episode from Lilia's point of view, it implies that Lilia's consciousness snaps away before she hits as well. And she goes back to her childhood, to this moment when she first runs up to have her first lesson, or a lesson, with her teacher. The fact that Lilia talks about having gaps in her childhood, it could be that when she was a child, she had the gaps and then lived through them, but I want to believe that she now is going to have the chance to live through those gap moments. So she's going to have the chance to finish her life as she began it and have one last chance to be with her original coven, be with her teacher, be a child again before she ultimately dies, which is very cool. Such a bittersweet but beautiful ending for Lilia.
Let us begin.
And the teacher looks so happy and proud. And Lilia, child Lilia, just looks happy and confident because, you know, she knows all that she's done and how well everything ended.
If I could save time in a bottle.
And then they shoot us in the heart with Time in a Bottle. Oh my God. That is such a brilliant episode. I love episode 6 because it was such a good episode, very well written. Joe killed it. But from a writing perspective, showing us this episode out of sequence in a way that we are able to figure out what's going on as Lilia does, experience it as Lilia does, everything falling into place as neatly and perfectly as it does. You know, and there even being things where like we kind of had a feeling of what was going on with Lilia's things that she said throughout the show up until now, but we didn't exactly know how it was going to come into play. And it's just so perfect the way it comes into play. So like this is one of the best written episodes of television I have seen in a very long time. And I know I said that about the previous episode, and that was also true, but I'm really hoping that episodes 8 and 9 will also be amazing. But even if they're not, like, this show is spectacular. I am so happy. Like, going into it, I thought I was going to enjoy it. I did not realize I was going to love it as much as I do. Okay, so that's all I have to say about this episode for now. Let me know your thoughts below. What are your guesses for the finale? What do you think is going to happen? What are your interpretations? Tell me everything. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, all the things that you do. Huge thanks, as always, to our patrons who are so amazing and wonderful and spectacular. And a special shout out to our Nick Nelson members, Kelly Walker, Paul Z, Kent Smither, Kim Engel, Lauren Javier, Mark Walker, Sarah Parker Schemmelt, and Courtney McAlexander. That's going to do it for this video. Have a wonderful rest of your day or night or whatever time of day it may happen to be. I'll see you next time. Okay? Bye.
Hear the room get colder. You can rest.